Welcome aboard, my friends. Another beautiful day. I ran away from work. Yeah, I did. You'll never get a day like this again. Anyhow, see this picture here? Yeah, I think you can see it. I said about 2 movies ago, I have a shooting right problem. I noticed that after a while that my group was slightly on the right. So I tried things like building up my shelf. That didn't work. I changed my tips from 200 to 125s. That didn't work. Then I tried raising my knock up. I thought that might be good. That didn't work. So eventually I realized that even though this bow has a shelf, it is not direct aiming. I cannot really aim my arrow right at the target. So, just like Jerry Hill says in his book, Howard Hill's Method of Shooting the Longbow. It's a good book. You should get it. Anyhow, they put the arrow slightly on the right. Now, I have found that with this particular bow, my arrow actually shoots a little to the right. So I actually have to put the tip over here. Now, this is what I'm saying. Here's my arrow, that's my shelf, and the target is right in that little slot there. But if I aim the arrow at the target, I'll hit over here. So we're using indirect aiming. Again, just like with the English longbow, where I had to find that I had to aim off my knuckle, or with my Asian bow, I find that I need to aim off my thumb. With this bow, I need to put the arrow slightly on the left. That's indirect aiming. If you're shooting to the right, aim left. If you're shooting to the left, aim right. Anyhow, that's what we're doing here today. So let's go do it. Have fun. Okay, back in a minute. Okay, guys, let's take a couple of shots here at 15 yards just to get us started. You know, I've been using my arrow to aim because I had this bow with a shelf, and it doesn't work. Indirect aiming works. Howard Hill said, do indirect aiming. Now, what I find with this particular bow, with Howard's bow, evidently the arrow went down on the right side and it would shoot like that. This bow, I find I have to put the arrow actually off to the left, right? Because it shoots to the right. So when I'm aiming, let's see if you can sort of see this. It's pretty hard. But anyhow, the arrow is right in that little V there. Or not the arrow, the target is right in that little V. It's just beside the arrow. Anyhow, that's what I'm doing. And it's called indirect aiming, and it's a lot better than aiming the arrow. I tried it for a couple of weeks and, shooting off to the right, and now I'm shooting straight by not seeing my arrow, by not looking at it. Anyhow, back in a minute. Okay, my friends. Then we're going to do some indirect aiming at 20 yards. Okay, when you're aiming your arrow, again, I want to let you see this. My target is right in between the bow and the arrow. Okay? It's actually, the target is actually on the right side. So I'm not aiming my arrow at it. It's called indirect aiming. And again, you know, we'll take a few shots at each distance, but you can see that they're going pretty straight. It's a bit high, but pretty straight. Whereas if I was aiming the arrow, I was constantly a couple inches to the right. Back in a minute. Okay guys, we're at 25 yards now. And we'll take a couple of shots. You know, these little short arrows, you really have a big gap with a short arrow. Okay, kind of high, but we'll just leave it. You know, there's three basic angles when you're drawing that you might notice. When you first put an arrow up, the angle is like this. But by the time you come back to here, you go into an angle that goes about like this. When you get back to about 4 inches in front of your face, it will just swing in and go straight. So it's sort of like an angle, an angle, an angle. I notice three distinct angles a lot of times. But that's just a thought. And anyhow, got a couple of hits there. You know, high on the high side, but you know, they're together and they're straight. That's the thing. I'm not aiming the arrow. You know, I'm putting the target in that little V slot between the arrow and the bow. That's just where it's going. Anyhow, back in a minute. Okay guys, I'm going to take a couple of shots at 30. You know, you don't have to hold it at 45 degrees, eh? I hold it at 45 degrees because I want a straight draw. Hold it at any angle you want. And however much you're off, compensate that much. Indirect aiming. Okay. Anyhow, you don't aim at the target. That's the big deal. You know, English longbow target's way over here. This bow arrow is actually on the left. You know, so Asian bow target over there. Anyhow, it's called indirect aiming, and it's when you don't really aim right at the target. And that's what we're doing here today. And it's solved my shooting right problem. You know, there's 30 yards and they're pretty straight. That's indirect aiming. Back in a minute. Okay guys, we'll take a couple of shots now at 35 yards. It's in the kill zone, just at the high side. It's right up there with it also. Anyhow, there's 35 yards. You know, it's funny. I'm trying to aim my arrow for the last couple weeks. Can't do it. Decide not to aim my arrow, just aim the target. Can do it. Yeah, indirect aiming gets all that twisting and torquing and all kinds of stuff out of there. And it just allows the bow to shoot where the bow wants to shoot. So you place the bow so that it shoots where you want it to shoot. It's not aiming the arrow. Anyhow, do that kind of stuff, and let's see where they are. And, you know, there's our hits. But we're not aiming that arrow. Indirect aiming. Howard Hill. That's what he said to do. So guys, I'm going to have a little snack here. And a little think. You know, shooting a bow is a very difficult thing to do correctly. You know, something that's talked about in Jerry Hill's book is indirect aiming. And again today, it's been shown to me that indirect aiming really works best. I've been trying to change the arrow tips and build the pad out and hold the bow in different ways and change my arrow tips because I thought the weight would change the hit. Nothing really worked until I simply started looking at the target and aiming there. Bang, I'm hitting it. Evidently, Howard Hill's bow, perhaps it was more powerful or something, but he had to put the arrow down there to hit there. With my English longbow, I have the arrow or the target over here, and the arrow's over there, and I hit it. So basically what we're doing is we're allowing the bow to shoot where the bow wants to shoot. We are not trying to interfere with the bow by using form and changing weights and stuff. We're simply letting the bow shoot where it shoots, and in my case it was shooting to the right, so I simply aimed to the left. I look there and I point there. It's a big deal. Indirect aiming. Yeah. Anyhow, I'm going to finish my sandwich and we'll be back and do some more shooting in a minute. Indirect aiming, boys. Okay, guys. Let's take a couple shots at 40 yards. I don't think that's in the kill zone. That one's probably in the kill zone. It's hard to see from this distance. There, that one I could see. Anyhow, they're down there someplace. You know, again, I'm not aiming this arrow. It really is right in, the target is right in there. Okay? It's pointing off like that. I'm just looking at it. I've got my arm back. It's all relaxed. I'm in my anchor. I'm holding it out, but I'm putting that little V right on the spot. And if you do that, you can get some hits. My big problem was I was shooting right with this bow, and I see two of our hits anyhow. Two, maybe there's the third one. Anyhow, there they are at 40 yards. Indirect aiming, boys. Back in a minute. Okay, guys, 45 yards. Kind of low on the belly, I think, but anyhow, we hit him. You know, again, as I go back, I'm still hitting that target and we're still on the line. It's very, very difficult to aim your arrow. It just really is difficult to aim that arrow. Let your bow shoot wherever it shoots and then compensate. That's indirect aiming, and it works. Okay, so in this case, the target is right in here, and the arrow looks straight, but it's right in that little V. I can only tell you that kind of stuff, but you got to go out and practice it yourself, and you'll find out what's going on. But anyhow, at 45 yards, yeah, there's our hits down there. They're together, but it gets harder. Back in a minute, boys. Okay, my friends, we'll try 50 yards this time. I'm going to hold it right about halfway up his neck. I hit him anyhow. You can only hear it, you can't see them. Hit him again. So we'll pan in and see what we did. But again, I'm not aiming that arrow. I'm putting the target. I'm aiming the target. That's all I'm doing. I'm looking at the target. I'm just pushing it so that it all sort of lines up. So, what can you say? Back to the anchor. Relax the arm. Hold it on. Press forward. I like the 45 cant. You don't have to do it, but I find I get a nice straight long draw with it, so I like it. And I was holding it about, halfway up his neck, so let's see where we hit him, if we can see. Yeah, 50 yards. Nice. I was just holding it up right about the middle of the neck. Popped him in there. Okay, boys. Indirect aiming. Think about it. Okay, my friends. Carl Gunther was asking about Howard Hill's straight up from under style, so it's just sort of straight up and try to touch your anchor. Fred Bear would call it snap shooting, But it's very quick, and it's a good thing for hunters, Try to touch your anchor, even if you don't, but you have to hold it on the line, Okay? So that's called snap shooting, and basically all this I'm doing is bringing that bow straight up. That's all. Straight up. And we know that if I'm using perfect form, we've got it up and we come back and we relax and let go. We do it here. So as long as you come up quick and you start heading for that anchor, you're just heading for it. Even if you don't quite make it, you'll have enough power, especially if you're using a 70-pound bow or something like Howard Hill, Whack. It's quick. Fred Bear called it snap shooting. And, at 20 yards, if you were a hunter, you're going to get your hits. Anyhow, I guess that's enough for today, guys. Time to walk out of the forest. It's getting dark. Hope you had a good time. And have a good week. Bye now.